You are listening to the 90 Days Later podcast with Anna Charles, episode 206. Welcome to the 90 Days Later podcast, where we talk about what really happens when you take a break from drinking. And it turns out to be the best thing you've ever done. I'm Anna, coach to high achievers who are done waking up with regret and ready to feel in control around alcohol. If you've ever wondered what your life could look like with less wine and more you, you're in the right place. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. This is the place where we have a little chat every week where I show you how to achieve lasting freedom around alcohol without having to go sober, give yourself any kind of label, and without any kind of counting days. If you want to decide on purpose when you drink and when you don't, and how much, you're in the right place. Now, before we get started, I am so excited and I have to just talk about this right now. It is coming up to Black Friday. I know. I know. You're probably getting inundated, but I was thinking about this. I wanted to think, what can I do that really helps you to get the transformation that you're after, right? Which is this freedom around alcohol, this take it or leave it relationship, whether you want to drink or not. And I was thinking, what are the things that people find difficult, or what are the things that hold people back from reaching out to get help, right? And one of them is, well, the big one is this won't work for me, right? But connected to that very closely is I just don't think I can do it in the time. Now, I work with people for 6 months, and this is by design, right? Because what I do with you is we teach and we coach, and you go out into the world and you practice and we learn and we iterate. And so I thought, what would be fun to offer? And I figured what I want to do is I want to give you a couple of extra months on me, right, to make this happen. So usually I work with people for 6 months, but for this Black Friday period only, the offer I'm making is I'm going to coach you for 8 months. 8 months of time with me to get this result, right? Then we're going to look at this and say, look, brain, there is no way I can't do this, right? This is totally possible. And it is. It really is. It's possible in 6 months. Many do it in less. But just to make this super reasonable, super realistic, if you're sitting there thinking, I don't think I can do it in that time, I'm going to give you 8 months. You're going to get 8 months with me for the price of 6. So I don't change the cost of my program. And I'm even also going to throw in the most generous payment plan I've ever had, right? So you can spread the payments and make this work for you. I do not offer such generous payment plans very often. I certainly have never offered 8 months for the price of 6, and I don't know if I'll do it again, if ever. All right, but I am offering it now. This is available to you until Cyber Monday, which I think is the 1st of December, or until the slots book out. I'm only doing a limited number of these. And so if this is what you want, if you know, right, Anna, this is that signal I've been waiting for, right? No excuses, brain. I can do this. I want you to go to 90dayslater.co and click on book a call. We'll do a free discovery call. We'll talk about where you are, where you want to be. I'll map out the plan. And remember, you get an extra 2 months to figure this out with me. Well, you won't be figuring it out. I'll be mapping the path for you, but you get an extra 2 months to practice with me. It is so good. I will also put the link in the show notes. Okay, so enough of that. Today, actually, the topic we're talking about today is very apropos to that, right? The topic is, I've called it Learn, Apply, Practice, Repeat. Now, the subtopic could be, what did I have? I've got it here. You can't YouTube your way through an evening urge. I was going to call it that, but I figured that was a little bit too long. But this is about how do we actually get there, right? The process of getting from where you are now to where you want to be, right? You don't need more information. Well, you need some information, right? If you're that saying, I really haven't got a clue how to do this, Anna. Okay, fair enough, Ski. I can teach you that. But one of the main things you're going to need is reps, right? People call it reps, I think, when you go to the gym, because learning matters for sure. I can for sure shorten the path. I can give you the shortcuts. I can reduce the avoidable mistakes. I can give you the clear map, right? That is one of the reasons why coaching works so well, because you're just going to be borrowing hard-won lessons instead of reinventing the wheel. And at this point, because I've worked with so many people at this point, I've really been reducing and making this clearer and clearer. What is the most direct way, and say in the most clean, specific way possible. It's like when you make a really good sauce, right? You reduce and reduce, and that's when you get on the flavor. And that's where I am at this point. But knowledge without practice is just potential, or it's just entertainment, some say, right? You can spend all the time consuming all the information, all the YouTube videos on how to do this. You could spend all your time consuming my podcast, reading my book, The Off Switch, doing all the things, right? Read, consume, and not taking action, right? Because you cannot YouTube video your way through an evening urge. You cannot mentally rehearse your way into a new habit and then do nothing more, not take action. At some point, you have got to do the thing. And then you have to do it again and again and again. Now, let's talk about passive versus massive action. Passive action is where I see a lot of people get stuck. It can feel really productive. This is why it's so sneaky, right? You're going to listen to podcasts. You're going to be taking notes. You're going to be saving posts you see on Instagram. You're going to be making plans, making drink plans. You may be, planning everything out. You're going to be learning a lot. And your brain is going to reward you with that little dose of, we're doing something, this is good. But then your evenings are looking exactly the same still, right? Because this is where we're stuck in this passive action. Whereas massive action, just this change of one letter there, is practice in the real world. This is when you try something at 5:30. This is when you learn from what happened. This is when you listen to me and you make a note. You think, okay, Anna, I'm going to do that thing tonight. And this is when you see what happened. You adjust and you try again tomorrow. This is where you keep going until it works. And by the way, the try again tomorrow, that tomorrow is only because you tried something today. It's not putting off till tomorrow. Just want to be clear. Right, so you try something today, going to try it again tomorrow. Massive action. It can sound really heavy and overwhelming, like I've got to do this great big thing, right? It could be like you're standing in front of one of those old train locomotives. You push your arms out, you put your hands on the machine, and you've got to, strain to push it. That is not massive action, what I'm talking about here. Massive action is just going out there and repeat. The people who change do not try this once. In fact, they don't try. They do, but they not do or try this once and give up or say that was it, that didn't work. They loop. They do it again and again and again, which is one of the reasons, right, why I work with 6 people for 6 months. Gives us lots of opportunity to try again and again and again. And if you're a daily drinker, you get lots of practice, which is a cool thing about being a daily drinker, I always say in this process. But, again, Black Friday, you get 8 months. All right, so let's talk about, taking all this passive action does not work. So let's talk about what does. And this is what I call the practice loop. It's a rhythm. You get into a rhythm that works, and we make it simple. We make it repeatable. And because of this, it becomes powerful in time. I don't want to overdo the word powerful. If it's simple and repeatable, just go with that. Here's what we do. We learn one thing. You're going to pick something simple, one single tool, one single thing to work on. Right? So if you're not currently a one-on-one client with me, you could pick any of my episodes, right? Listen to any of my podcast episodes, write down one thing that I say. I'm always littering them. They're full of all the practical things. So pick one thing. Maybe it's writing a drink plan. You can use the Off Switch app for that. And don't remember Annie's there, my AI coach, trained on all my stuff. Not going to be free forever. All right, so you pick one thing. Maybe it's a drink plan. Maybe I'm gonna pause for 2 minutes in front of the fridge before I open the door. All right, maybe I'm just gonna spend the evening noticing how often I say I deserve it, or just one drink. Funny thing on that, isn't it weird how when our brains say just one won't hurt, they never say 5 won't hurt. But we're quite happy, or maybe not happy, but we can automatically go into drinking 5 by using the just one formula. Anyway, so you just want you to notice one thing. You're just going to do that one thing, whether it's noticing or doing something, taking it. And this is all taking action. And you're going to practice that daily. You're going to do that every day, that one thing every day. Now you can put in other things too, but I want you to do that one thing every day. And then when you come to the end of the week, you could do this on a Friday. You could choose to do this on a Wednesday. It doesn't really matter. After a few days, though, you need a few days under your belt. I want you to write down 3 things. What worked with doing this thing, what didn't work, and what you're going to do differently next time. That's it. So let's say you wanted to notice your I deserve it thoughts. Maybe what worked is you noticed them before you had drinks. Maybe what didn't work was you didn't notice them after you had drinks. What you're going to do differently, you're going to spend more time noticing, right, in that post-drink period. Something like that. And then you just tweak it. We just tease and tweak a new way. It's not some big overhaul, right? It's just one small change. This is so simple. I mean, I really want you to see how simple and straightforward this can be. We overcomplicate it. So we just want to pick one thing and do it again and again and again. And if you do this over a week, think about this. You've got 7 chances. It's the same thing. So you're doing it 7 times. And you're going to start to see some patterns. Now, at the same time, you might feel bored. You might feel bored doing this. That's perfect. Right? This is showing it's working, because this is the brain saying, come on, we don't want to do that thing. We want to have a drink. But it's like, no, we're doing this new thing. So let's bring this to life. And remember, let's look at something what happens around 6 p.m. That typically is the time, right, when things happen, when we find it difficult. And remember, I want you to know that nothing has gone wrong if after you've doing this for a little while that 6 p.m. still feels a bit frenetic and noisy. Right? Most people assume that when we get urges, when we get cravings, that's a failure. Actually, when you have urges, it just shows you're actually alive. Think about it that way. These are just feelings. And this is your moment. This is your moment to step forward and try something new, to practice something new. So if you drink, for instance, as a reward after a long day, maybe you've planned your drink tomorrow, right? Maybe you've planned one for tomorrow, but today you're not going to do it. But maybe today you're practicing alcohol-free. So when the thought comes, I deserve it. That's a stupid plan, Anna. I used to have that one all the time. Let's do it today. I want you to remind yourself, right, I can have it tomorrow. It's not planned for today, so I'm not having it for today. That might be the thought that you want to practice. That's the only thing you're going to be practicing when you have that little trigger, let's say, or the little cue. We want to have the drink. We're gonna think this thought, and then we're going to evaluate. Maybe I deserve it, I want it. Maybe it was really loud at 6:30. Maybe you thought before it was always at 6, but maybe it's at 6:30. And so a little tweak might be, in addition to thinking this thought, we might want to say, okay, I can see I'm really getting into that I reward it. What can I do? How could I prepare differently for that moment, right? So that my brain gets a sense of closure on the day. How about something simple like sitting in a chair for 5 minutes? Honestly, simple things like this work wonders. Now let's take this scenario maybe where you're drinking to escape stress or overwhelm, so common, right? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to expect the discomfort. We're not going to fight it, right? We're going to practice maybe noticing. No, just practice noticing what your body is doing, right? So this is where we're taking action, even though it's just the noticing. So we're going to notice what your body's doing, how you're feeling. Is it in your shoulders? Is it in your breath? And here's the thing you're going to practice. You're going to tell yourself, this is what stress feels like in my body. Nothing has gone wrong, right? We're just going to say that. We're just going to notice, and we're going to talk to ourselves. Just going to notice. This might seem such a tiny action, But I want you to see that this is really where we're dialing in and we actually are taking action. You do this every day, that is massive action. And then maybe we evaluate later. And maybe we see what happened when I was doing this. Maybe actually we found that we were really desperate for the feeling to pass quickly. Right? Really desperate. And it just seemed like a really long time. So maybe next time when you do this, when you're noticing the stress and you're wanting it to go, that maybe just set a timer for 2 minutes, right? And we just notice. A lot of urges, people, do not last beyond 90 seconds. This is true. They come and they go really quickly. Now they might come back, but they do not last all evening. So you could do that. Here's an example for you if you drink to get confident, to feel confident in social situations, right? When we go to a social, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be making a beeline for the bar because I'm just so socially anxious. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to pre-decide your arrival drink. You're going to make it alcohol free and you're going to text it to yourself at noon. You're going to remind yourself that's what I'm doing. That one decision is going to save you 20 minutes of stress later. All right, that's what you're going to do. And then when you go to the event, we remember, we see it on our phone. You can write a little note to yourself, slip it in your pocket, and that's it. And we just practice how we feel around that. All right, so we do that. And then we evaluate. Maybe we find that actually I did all the planning, Anna, and then when I got there, I freaked out and I ordered wine instead. All right, what are we going to do next time so we can remember? Maybe you set a note in your calendar to sort of reset your mind before you go to the event. So these are all the different things, right? And I'll give you one more example of another of how you can apply this in a specific scenario. So if you're somebody who drinks when you're home alone in the evening, I want you when you go home to expect to want to drink. That's the tool we're practicing. We're just going to expect it. We are not going to argue with ourselves. You're not going to try and positive think your way away from this. We're going to expect that we're going to want to drink. We're going to sit with it and we're going to do nothing. You can, again, this is a useful one where you can set yourself a timer. If the voices in the head are coming very noisy, we need to drink, want to sit down, we're going to set a timer. It's great if you've got a smartwatch for 2 minutes. Doesn't matter if you haven't. Just look at the clock. And then we're going to pause and then we're going to go on with our day, with our evening, right? This is not about fixing the urge. This is just about watching it exist. Again, a super simple, tiny tool. Is this the whole solution? No, there is more to it. But if you were to do this every day rather than drinking in response to that, well, I feel bored, I've got a drink, imagine how differently you would start to take action. And then we will evaluate. Maybe you found that the urge actually was heavier around 7:30, right? But then it eased after you had dinner. And then what could you do differently next time, right? How would you be able to talk to yourself in that moment? So repetition matters a lot, right? I'm going to repeat that. Repetition matters a lot. Your brain has learned already through repetition and feedback. If you read my book, The Off Switch, you'll see that feedback is so important here, right? Your brain is going to need consistent repetition in the same context to update what it just does next. You've become very efficient at one thing, we're learning something else. So random, once in a while, super Herculean, is that how you say it? When you act like Hercules? Super effort once in a while doesn't work so well, right? Because it's just a once in a while. It's not a signal that we need to rewire that we're really doing this thing. Weekly is good. Daily, tiny reps are even better. Repetition, by the way, if you want another reason to do it this way, also calms our emotions, right? Because we start to get even something we're dreading or not looking forward to. Once we know we're going to do it, it can really bring down the level of the emotion, the level of the noise. Right? The first time you sit through a craving, it's a really noisy, uncomfortable experience. By rep 5, it's more familiar. By rep 20, it's probably boring, right? And boring is where we want to get to, right? Because boring is freedom here, because it means we're just doing these things. We don't fight them. This is how you build your off switch. One of my clients recently said, and we've just been working on changing small patterns. She said, actually, Anna, I realized I do have an off switch. Now, she knows she's not there yet. That's not the point. The point is that she can see she has one, that she can see she's working to build it. And she's right. And you have one too. You do not build your off switch by thinking about drinking less, by thinking about what you could do, right? You do it by taking action, by practicing new responses in the exact moments when the urge usually arrives. Repetition is what teaches your brain, I can stop here, I can choose differently, not perfectly, but consistently. So here's a little 7-day practice sprint for you. I want you to, on day 1, I want you to choose one tool, one thing you're going to do differently. All right? And then you're going to practice it that night. Then day 2, you're going to practice it again. Day 3, you're going to practice it again. Day 4, you're going to practice it again. Day 5, you're going to sit and evaluate. You're going to look at what worked, what didn't work, and then you're going to decide on one tweak. Day 6, you're going to apply the tweak. Day 7, you're going to do it again. Right? Do you see what I'm saying here? All right? We just want to choose something, take action, figure out if it served us, if it worked or not, figure out something else if it didn't, how we can apply and tweak. That's momentum. That is it. So that was everything I wanted to say for this week. Get out there. You can learn for sure, but really spend the time in applying and in practicing and repeating. And remember my Black Friday offer. I'm going to give you lots of time to practice, repeat, and learn this new way of being for yourself. You get 8 months of coaching, 8 months of time with me for my usual price where I normally work with people for 6 months, and I'm giving the most generous payment plan so you can spread their payments. This is only available until the 1st of December, after which I will go back to my usual, which is working with me for 6 months, and I may actually close it sooner because I only have limited spots, and I've just had a couple of people already overnight book with me. So we could be getting close to full anyway. But I want you to, if this is what you want, go to 90dayslater.co, book that call with me. I'll tell you what's involved, and you can make an informed decision. All right, I will help you to learn. I will help you apply, practice, and repeat. All right, good people, I will see you next week. If this episode hit home and you're ready to explore what life could look like with alcohol in the backseat, let's talk. I work with people one-on-one who are ready to create the relationship with alcohol that works for them, so they feel powerful in their choices and at peace with their habits. Go to 90dayslater.co and click on book a call, or grab one of the free guides in the show notes to this episode. And if this podcast is helping you, a rating or review goes a long way to help others find this work too.